Hello guys, I'm 𝗙𝗲𝗿𝗺, a user experience designer, and today I'm not going to beat around the bush because there is a lot to cover. We are going to get directly into our tutorial. And what are we going to be dealing with? We are going to be solving a problem. We'll be building a mobile application for 𝗙𝗲𝗵𝗁's health and beauty. But in this case, we'll be trying to help a user recover their password. So what exactly is the process? First, I have my sketch ready. Now I will need to convert the sketch into a design and then to a prototype. But before getting to the point of even designing, there is something we have to touch on which is extremely important for every designer, and that is to have a design system. Now, I don't want to rush ahead of myself. I need to step back a little bit and outline exactly how this particular tutorial video is going to look like. Because I want to be as detailed as possible, I've decided that I'm going to split this into a series of videos. I want to avoid having a long 2 or 3 hours video. So I'm going to split this into a series of videos, and each video is going to cover a specific topic. It could be a subtopic, it could be a main topic. And under a design system, there are so many elements that go under it. We have typography, color, icons, input forms, buttons. All of this is going to be split into different videos, and that's just before we even get into designing. But I promise you, if you understand and take your time to prepare your design system, even if you take hours to prepare your design system, when it gets to designing, it's going to save you a lot of stress along the line. I've been talking about a design system, but what exactly is a design system? Simply put, a design system is a library of reusable UI elements. We have a color palette, we have icons, input forms, buttons, cards. There are so many things that can go into your design system depending on the project. So if you're building a mobile app, a web application, software, it's always good practice to have a design system put in place before designing or going to designing your various screens. A design system is not only going to help you when it's time for you to hand over the assets to your clients or to the developers. A design system has already created some sort of structure for them to follow. So they will have things like you've defined the spacing, and when they start coding, it will be easy for them to look at the design system and translate that into their codes. So this is a current page containing our sketches. What we are going to do now is to create a new page, and to do that we come to the left panel. On the top where we have pages, we click on the plus button that says add a new page. So most of the times when you hover over an icon or a tool, it's going to give you a hint in the form of a tooltip. So we'll click on this button, add a new page. We are creating a design system page, and on this page we are going to be putting all our elements that is going to be going into the design system. So what I'm going to create now is a frame, and to create a frame I'm going to come to this icon that looks like 4 lines drawn in the form of a square, and I'll click on it, and I have 2 options. Either I draw it directly on the canvas. This is a free-form way of creating your frame, and you can do this if you just want to put in elements that will not really need a particular viewport size for a particular device. The other option is to still click on the frame. What I did, I just deleted that particular frame. I'm going to click on this frame. I can choose from different devices on the right panel. So you click on desktop. If you are creating a design for a website or a web application, you can use any of the desktop depending on the system. So if you are creating for MacBooks, you can use MacBook sizes. If you are creating for Windows, you can use desktop sizes. If you are creating for a mobile phone or a smartphone, you can use the phone option. So in this case, we are not really creating for a particular device, so I won't pick any of these options. I'm going to do a free form and create any size because I just want to place my items inside. So what I've done is I've created a frame, and what I'm going to do is rename this frame to design system. So it's generally a good practice to give your frames a name. It's going to help you to easily navigate, especially when you start. Either you want to export the frame separately or you want to start prototyping. Having the names is kind of identifying each of the screens. So design system, sorry. Okay, so I'm just going to give this a title, and what I'm going to do is to use the text tool, which is this T. So I'm going to click on this text tool and I'm going to click inside the frame. I'm going to call this design system. So this is more like a heading, and I'll just draw a line to separate the designs. Okay, so we are going to be creating a typography scale, and there is a particular resource I use that makes it easy, which I think is also going to make it easy for you. I use the TypeScale website. This is it, and it's already loaded. So this is the link, typescale.com. So what I do is I come here and I can choose a base font. So let's say the base font could be 16 pixels, it could be 18 pixels, which means that that is going to be like for the body. Then it's also going to create you a scale for the headings. So generally in web design, we have from heading 1 to 6. Then you have the fonts for the body, maybe fonts for the caption. So in this case, we're going to be creating a base of 18 pixels. The scale, you have to do research on this. There's major third, there is minor third. And if you select major third, you notice that, or major second, you notice that the font sizes for the heading ones have reduced. So it kind of gives you a smaller size. And if you select a major third, which is what most people usually use, it gives you a bigger size for the headings. But you see the base font still remains. So the base font is for the paragraph. So when you see P, it means paragraphs. So we're either going to use the minor third, base font still remains the same, but you notice the small and the headings are changing. Or we're going to use the major third. In this case, we will stick to the major third. And we're going to use specific font sizes. We're going to, just to limit it for this design, we're going to use heading 1 to 4. We're going to choose the paragraph and then the small. So this is what you're going to do. So I'm going to just add my titles here. First, which font family do we want to use? We're going to be using Open Sans because it's a common Google font. I'm going to call my font family Open Sans. So this is more like a label, It's not like it's compulsory. I'll just duplicate this. What I did is I clicked on this, held down my Alt key, and you saw the way the icon changed to something double. Then I dragged it before leaving the mouse button and the Alt key. So that is how you can duplicate an item, or you can do Ctrl-D. It's still going to be the same thing. So I just duplicated it because I wanted to give this section a heading, which is typography. I like to keep things organized. That's why I always have headings. It just makes it easier for the developers to navigate. Okay, I wanted to reduce the font size, so I click on the text I want to reduce the font size. I'm going to come here and maybe I'll enter let's say 48 pixels. This is just something I'm doing now, it's not compulsory. Now I'll duplicate this. I'm going to give this heading 1, and we're going to refer now to our type scale. So heading 1 was 68.86 pixels, 66 pixels. And that's it. It's Open Sans is already selected. So let's assume that we want to use 𝗏𝗏. If I wanted to change this font to 𝗏𝗏, I'll just click under the text panel, because this is the design panel, and the design panel just has different tools for you to manipulate with the different elements on your canvas. So in this case, I want to manipulate text. So I'm going to come to the text section. And the text section, you notice that it's almost similar to what document tools usually have. Bold, changing the weight of a font, the letter spacing, the line height, and the rest, centralizing, aligning to the left, to the center, or to the right. So you can manipulate all of this here, but that's not our focus today. So in this case, I want to change it to 𝗙𝗏, so I can just come, click on this, then I'm going to type in 𝗙𝗏. If I have the font, it's definitely going to show up here, and I can change my font family to 𝗙𝗏. So in this case, I don't want to change my font family to 𝗙𝗏. I want it to stay in Open Sans. So I'm going to go back to Open Sans, and I want my heading to be bold. So I'm good with that. I'll drag this down. Now I'm going to call this heading 2. So there's a reason why I duplicated this. This is going to have the font sizes. So the heading 1 was 68.66 pixels. Heading 2 is 54.93. So I'll just copy this to make this easy for me. It takes a while to create your design system, but when you've done that, you're good to go. So what I just did is I copied the text and I pasted it inside here because I want to change the font size. Sorry, I was supposed to do that with the 2 selected. I'll duplicate this. And I'm going to, heading 3 is 43.95. Heading 3 is 43.95. And I'm going to select these 2 and change the font size here to 43.95. And we'll do the same thing for heading 4. So heading 4 is 35.16. 35.16. I'm going to select these and select these 2. Remember, we're changing the font sizes for the heading and the font size. So I'm going to enter 35, and all of the headings, I wanted them to be bold, so it's still fine. What I'm doing now is just aligning the text to the middle. Okay, so we are done with the headings. Remember, it's heading 1 to 6, but for the design purpose, we are sticking to heading 1 to 4. When you're creating your design system, please, you need to accommodate for the different sizes, especially if it's for a website. Now I'm going to duplicate this, and we'll call this P, or we can call this the body. So to keep things organized, I like to align to the right and here. Okay. So I like the way it looks right now. So the body was 18 pixels. Remember, the body is our base font, which means that every paragraph is going to have this particular font size, which is 18 pixels. And I'm also going to make sure to change it here, 18 pixels. And the last thing we will do is to create a small. So we can use small for things like captions. And a small here was, let's see, 14.4 pixels. So if you don't see it on my screen, I have 2 screens in front of me, so it's easy for me to refer to it. So if you're following with me, you just need to check on your browser to see if it's the same font size. And I'm going to select both and change this to 14 pixels. So one thing we did not change with the body here, we needed to make it regular because the body doesn't have to have a very thick font weight. So we're going to change this to regular, and the small will also change to regular. So you select your fonts, or you select your text first, then you come to the text panel and you click here. This is where you can change the font weight, where you have bold. So in another case, it may be regular that is selected, or some other font weight. So in this case, bold was selected. Now I want to change it to regular. I'm just going to click on regular, or let's say semi-bold. Semi-bold looks cool. So let's assume that I wanted to create, oh, there's something else I think we should add here, and that is going to be for the button, because I prefer when the button has a more of a thicker weight. So what we'll do is we'll still allow the button to have the same font size, but we will change the letter spacing and the font weight of the button. So this we've selected, we'll come here, how we change the weight before, we select regular, and we're going to change this to bold. Now to change the letter spacing, we need to come here where it says letter spacing. So if you're not sure of what you want to change, you just need to hover over that tool, and it's going to give you a tip on what that tool does. So it's telling me that this is for letter spacing. So what I will do is, you see, when I hover over this particular tool, when I hover over the A here, it shows me double arrows, so one pointing to the left and one pointing to the right. When it shows me that, it's easy for me to just slide it to the right to increase the letter spacing, or slide it to the left to reduce the letter spacing, or better still, you can enter it manually. So you see, when I came here, it changed back to a normal mouse pointer. So if I double click in this box, it's going to allow me to enter this manually. But in this case, I want to be lazy and use the sliding mode. So we'll come back to our A, hover over it, make sure it changes to the 2 pointers, then I'm going to slide it to the right. So when I'm satisfied with how it looks, then I'll stop. So I think I'm satisfied with how it looks now. I'm going to leave it at that. So we've changed letter spacing for the button alone. Now that we are done with setting up our fonts and their sizes, the journey doesn't end there. We now need to create local styles. And when you create local styles, you can easily apply those styles to whatever text you have on your screens. So let's say you have 50 headings and 50 heading ones. You can just create that style and apply it to the headings. And later in the future, if for some reason you decide that you want to come and change the font sizes, you just need to come back, or change a particular styling for a font, you just need to come back to your local styles and edit that particular style. So if, let's say, the current font style or font size is 68.66 pixels, and in the future you want to change it to 40 pixels, all you need to do is to come now to the local styles and change it, and it's going to affect all the other 50 headings without you having to go in and change it individually. So guys, let's start changing or adding our local styles. We're going to start with heading 1. We'll select heading 1 because we already added our style here. We don't need to do any other thing again. We'll select heading 1. We'll come to our text panel. Now we'll go to the right where you have the 4 dots. And where it says styles, you click on the styles, and you're going to come just below that. There is something they call create style with the plus button. So we want to add a style, and I'm just going to click on this one time, and we're going to give this a name, and our name here is H1. So H1 starts for heading 1. You don't have to call it H1, you can call it heading 1. It just depends on you, and if you have a particular naming convention, then it could work here too. So when we are done, we just need to create that particular style. So we don't need to enter description. It's not compulsory, but if you want to, feel free. Just to make things quicker, I've never added a description, but if you choose to, then that's fine. So I'm going to click on create style. We'll come now to heading 2. We'll do the same thing that we did previously. Do you see what happens? It has created a style. Now, when we start designing our screens, you're going to see how important this is. We'll create another style for H2. I'll click on the plus button, and we're going to call this H2, and we are done. So you don't have to go and manually click on create style. You can see, just when you're set up, you just click on enter, and it's still going to push that change. So I'm going to select H3, come to the same button and click on create style. I'll just call this H3, and I'm going to click on L, press the enter button. Yeah, we'll do H4, we add, call this H4, and we press the enter. The same thing for the body. We're going to call this P to keep it simple. and small. If you are versed with InDesign, Illustrator, I think Photoshop too has the option, then you are already versed with what the road styles have to play, especially when you're working on a lot of screens or a lot of documents or a lot of artboards. So we're going to click on add and small. We are done. Button, we just add this and we are going to call this a button. Okay, so I think we are done with that. And you see, we just created something small for, and this is just for the typography. Now in the next video, we are going to be creating a color palette for the design. At this level, I'm thinking we should test this out to see how it looks, even though we're still going to test it out when we are designing our screens, but let's just test it out. I'm going to create a text here. I want to use a plugin, 𝗙𝗲𝗿𝗀𝗀 plugin. So we're going to click on this. Okay, so if you're new to Figma and you haven't ever used plugins before, plugins just help to extend the functionality of Figma. So you see, for example, I'm trying to get a dummy text. Rather than me having to go to the browser to find a dummy text to copy and paste, I just can access that within my Figma software. If you haven't used a plugin before, you won't see it under the recent. So how do we get to the plugins? We go to the Figma main menu, click on it, come below where you need to find plugins, and we need to go to where you say manage plugins. So we can search for a plugin if we don't have. These are some plugins I've been using. And even icons, when we get to the icons, we are definitely going to use plugins. So here I'll just say, this is just for demonstration purposes because I already have the plugin available there. This is it, but I still want to just check for 𝗙𝗲𝗿𝗀𝗀𝗃. So Figma has a whole repository of plugins. I think developers working on plugins to make life easy for us using the software. So there's so many to choose from. You just need to look for what fits you. And a way for you to decide could be, you see, when you look at the very first plugin, you see the number of people currently using the plugin. We have 154,000 people using the plugin. So that can tell you if a plugin is good, or that is just one way. It's not a determinant factor of a good plugin or not, but it's one way that you can know if a plugin is good or not. So you can select any plugin. There are so many. You just need to select one that fits. I'm not going to select right now. I'm just going to go back to use the one I'm currently used to, which is this 𝗙𝗲𝗿𝗀𝗃 plugin. And it's just going to make this easy. Now, one thing that you'll notice with Figma is you can't use two plugins at the same time. Yeah, that was something I came to realize, which was a little bit frustrating because I've been using Illustrator, and I know they have a lot of panels. You can have so many panels open, and it's not the same like the plugins, but just having those panels open makes it easy for me to access different tools that I want to use at different points in time without having to close it, open it, and so on and so forth. But in this case, we just manage with what we have. Okay, so now I want to create a paragraph. What I would do is a different way to create a paragraph. So if you want to create a paragraph, you select the text tool, you click on your frame and you drag before you leave it. So you are creating a paragraph, you are creating a text box. So I've done that. Now I want to use my plugin to generate the text here, and I'm going to just click on how many paragraphs do I want. I think I just want 2 paragraphs. I'll just call this generate. Ooh, and you see it generated text for me, and I'm good with that. Now if you want to just generate for one line, a single line, you just need to click once. You select your text tool and you click once, and when you click once, you can generate any text there. So what I want to do now is to change from paragraphs to words. So you see you can generate characters, you can generate words, and you can specify the number of characters, words, or sentences or paragraphs you want to use. So in this case, I just want to use yeah, let me just say sentences. I want to use 1 sentence. Okay, so I'm sure you've noticed a difference. So if let me still use the same example, right? Remember in this one, we created a text box and everything just fit perfectly into the text box. Now, imagine I just clicked once. I'm going to select this tool again. And I clicked once, and I'm going to use the same settings I used for this, which is a paragraph, and I used 2 paragraphs. So let me generate. Do you see what it did? It extended this text box to out of the frame, and most of the times it's going to be difficult for you to manipulate. You see how it's extended. So this is not what you want. If you know you are going to create a paragraph, then you better go with a text box. But if you know you want to create a limited amount of text, let me see, limited amount of words, limited amount of characters, then I think you can click once and create just a single line text. So in this case, I just want a single line. So I'm just going to create, choose sentences, and I'm going to choose 1 sentence, and I'm good to go. So I've taken the opportunity to explain how to use your plugins, not all plugins, but at least this particular plugins. It might vary for different plugins. It doesn't have to work like this, but with this, this is how I've been using it, and I've never had an issue with it. So now our goal here is just to test out this typography that we just added, the type scale we added. Now this is going to be our heading, and this is going to be our body. So let's give this a heading 1. Okay, heading 1 is too big. Let's give this a heading 4. So now we want to apply the body or the paragraph style to this section. So first I'm going to select the section. I'm going to select my text, expand it just a little bit. Then now I'm going to come back to this particular text style panel, and I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to select P. This is what we said before, and that is it. So we have applied our text styles to our text. So let's test to see if we change. So this was H4. So you notice when I select this, it tells me this is a current style applied to this particular body of text, and P is what is applied to this body of text. So what if I wanted to modify? We're going to undo the change. What if I wanted to modify H4? Let's duplicate as many H4s as possible. What if I wanted to modify the H4 font size? What I'll do is I'll come to my text panel tool, click on it, then I'm going to where the H4 is highlighted and make sure that that is what I want to change. I'm going to click on this icon here that says edit style. And just like what we did when we were adding the font sizes, it brings it just that it's a different layout. And we have the name of this particular style. We don't want to change it. You can modify that if you want to. But in this case, our goal is to change the font size. So I'm going to select it. And let's say I'm going to change it to a random figure, which is 21. And when I'm done, I'm going to click or press the enter button. And you notice what happened. It changed the font sizes for all of the text that have the H4 text applied to it. So guys, this is how you modify text styles. This is how you add text styles. And in the next class, we are going to be talking about and demonstrating how you can create a color palette for your design project. I'm just going to undo this. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for staying with me. I hope you're going to be patient as well till when we finish this tutorial. And before the next class, you can take some time to practice what you've just learned in this particular tutorial video. Thank you once more.